Hello and welcome back to another episode. This is part one of a four-part series looking at successful businesses and the techniques that they have used to become successful and learning how we can apply that into our businesses. So today I'm going to dive into Ikea and the Ikea effect. But before I do that, I want to remind you that tickets for the Profit Maven Summit are for sale. There are only 100 tickets available, and a lot of those have already been claimed. So if you want to come and experience an in-person event like no other happening on October 2nd and 3rd, grab your ticket now. It'll be linked down in the show notes. Now, I want to walk you through a few people that I've been able to meet because of in-person events and how they've been able to impact my business and the different opportunities that I've been able to have because of in-person events and the people that I've been able to meet at these in-person events. So the first person, and this is not an all-inclusive list. These are just a few that I wrote down really quickly before I recorded this episode. So there's a bunch more people that I've been able to connect with that have been absolutely amazing. But one of the people is Dan Clark. Now, Dan Clark is one of the top 10 most motivational speakers in the world. He's spoken to over 4 million people and on 6 different continents, and he is absolutely amazing. And guess what? I have his phone number because I took the time to go to an in-person event and I actually had the opportunity to speak on stage with him. But I spent the time networking with him after he was done and just getting to know him. And he gave me his phone number and he's helping me to improve my speaking skills. And yes, he's one of the top 10 most motivational speakers in the world. And I have his phone number, and it's just like one of those like awestruck moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. But truthfully, it would have never ever happened if I had not attended that in-person event. And so that is one of the people. Now, the other person is Haley Burkhead, and she's actually a speaker now at the Profit Maven Summit. So you're going to be able to meet her if you come. She is amazing and one of my great online best friends, but also online turned in person because we were able to meet in person. And she has been very helpful for me in connecting me with different people and also helping me to invest my money in different areas of my business and just really opening my mind up to different ways to create wealth. And she is just a wealth of knowledge in herself, but she's a massively successful business owner. And you're going to be able to learn from her if you come to the Profit Maven Summit. But I have been able to get to know her and have the opportunity to bring her on as a speaker because I met her at an in-person event. Now, the other person is Ellen Yin. So she is the Cubicle to CEO host. So that's her podcast, but she is also the owner of Cubicle to CEO. And I was on her podcast as well as featured in her email. Her podcast, it has over 100, I think it has over 1 million downloads. And her email subscriber list, I think she has over 30,000 email subscribers. And so that was a huge opportunity for my business to be able to reach more people through her podcast. And I've also had other opportunities with her. And because of her and the connections that I've had with her, and I was able to meet her at an in-person event as well. And the other person that came to my mind before I hopped on this episode was Chrissy Chin. And so I was able to speak in her community on her podcast, and I was even mentioned in her book. I even had the opportunity to write, I think it's called like a foreword, but when you turn the like cover of the book over and there's a whole bunch of different people that give not necessarily reviews on the book, but also reviews on the book. I was able to be one of those people for her book, which is really cool. So those are just 4 of the people that came to my mind, very top of my mind as I was writing out who I have been able to meet because of in-person events. And again, the list could go on and on. I have several people that I've met at in-person events that I've been able to bring onto this podcast. So many different opportunities because of in-person events. I believe that one of the best ways to scale your business is to scale your relationships, and relationships are best built in person. So I really hope to see you at the Profit Maven Summit. Again, tickets are linked in the show notes. All right, let's dive into the episode and talk about the IKEA effect. So what is the IKEA effect? The IKEA effect suggests that people feel a sense of pride and achievement from successfully completing the assembly of a product, leading them to value the end product more highly than if they had not put any effort into its creation. And this effect is rooted in the cognitive dissonance theory as well as the self-perception theory. And those are 2 psychological theories. I'm not going to dive into those. I'm only going to be talking about the IKEA effect, but I just want you to know that the IKEA effect isn't just something that I made up. This is actually rooted in psychology, which is really cool. And I like to think of the IKEA effect similar to if you've ever built like a Lego set. If you are building that Lego set, when you're done with that and you see the end result of building that Lego set, especially if it's like a big Lego set where we're talking like thousands of pieces, you look at that and you're like, oh my goodness, look at what I just accomplished, right? And so same thing with IKEA, obviously with IKEA furniture, if you know what IKEA is and IKEA furniture, you have to put the furniture together yourself. And so it's basically just saying that the person who puts it together themselves and they have a part in the creation process, they're going to value that product more highly than if they had not put any effort into it. And so you might be thinking, okay, that's great. I don't have a product that was like a step-by-step thing that people can put together. Don't worry, neither do I. So I've come up with a few different ways that you can implement the IKEA effect into your business. And I'm going to walk through 3 different categories. So number one, if you have an offer, so like a course, a program, anything like that, I'm going to walk through examples of that. And then if you have one-on-one coaching, and then just generally inside of your community, how you can apply the IKEA effect. So if you have a course or an ebook or a membership or a program, these are some ideas of how you can apply the IKEA effect into your business. So number one is you can allow people in as beta students. So basically like testers of this offer to, before the offer is finished, to give feedback on the offer on how to improve that offer. And so they are being a part of the creation process, right? They're helping you to create that offer and make that offer the best that it can possibly be. And then what you can do when you officially launch that offer is you can use their names on the sales pages if they feel comfortable, and in the marketing content to share that it was built by you as well as these beta testers. And so you're not taking all the credit of the building. Obviously, you are the business owner and you're the main creator there, but you have these beta testers who have been able to help you refine this offer and make it the best possible. And so those beta testers are going to feel connected because they had a say in the creation process, right? You probably implemented different features that they said, or you did things different because of the feedback that they gave you. Now, I actually have a real life example of this. So the app called Azura. It's a communications app, and I was a beta tester for Azura, and I feel so much more attached to the app because I was a beta tester. And the founder of Azura is Natasha, and she actually had an episode just a few episodes back on sales psychology. So go listen to her episode. She's so knowledgeable when it comes to sales. But she's the founder of the app. And when she shared the launch of the app, she actually, in her marketing, shared the people who helped to build the app. And I was one of those people who was listed as a beta tester. And so she's obviously the founder. But because I was helping with the creation of the app, and there were actually 11 other women that also helped with the creation of the app, she listed all those people. And truthfully, because I was a beta tester, I did feel more inclined to share the offer with my audience. And so I did share about that app. I'm using it right now, actually, inside of scalability. So if you're inside of scalability, I'm using it as a way to communicate. It's a way that I am communicating with my one-on-one clients. So I love Azura, and I truly don't think that I would have promoted it anywhere near as much as I did had I not been a beta tester, even though I love Natasha. I think that she's amazing, but I felt like I had part in the creation process. There are certain features inside of Azura that came about because I was a beta tester, and I felt more inclined, and I saw that at a higher value because I was a part of the process, and because I valued it higher and I also saw the value of it, I was then more inclined to share with my community because I want to share things that are high value. So that's an example of that in real life. Now, some other ways that you can implement this IKEA effect with your offers is you can show progress bars and track milestones so that your students feel a sense of accomplishment or achievement in their investment. Another thing that you could do is add customization options. Now, this isn't going to make sense for every single offer, but what I mean by adding customization options, so you can allow people, your students, to personalize different aspects of the offer, meaning like maybe their learning path, their interface theme, additional modules, filters, An example would be maybe you have an app that's a recipe app. And when you go into that recipe app, you can filter for different preferences. So maybe you have like different food allergies, or maybe you have, if you want to filter for meals for 2 versus meals for 6 or something along those lines. And after you filter for these different filters and you finally get like the perfect list of meals for your family and your needs, you're going to feel like you have aided in the creation process. So that's another way that you can implement that IKEA effect into your offers. Now, if we're moving on to one-on-one coaching, how can you implement the IKEA effect to like your one-on-one coaching clients and your containers? So the first way is to answer a client's question by asking them questions. So if they are like, hey, how do I do this? You're going to ask them a question back. And the purpose isn't to avoid their question, but it's to help them to uncover the solution versus just handing them the solution. And when they have been a part of the process of uncovering this solution, they're going to feel more invested in it. And when they feel more invested in it, they're going to be more likely to take action and see results. And they're going to feel more of a sense of pride and accomplishment in that. So again, when someone asks you a question, your clients ask you a question, asking them a question back so that you can have a back and forth dialogue versus it being like they ask you a question and you just tell them the answer, right? They're going to feel a lot more invested when they've been a part of the solution. And the second thing that you can do with one-on-one or any high-level coaching, by the way, this could be like for mini minds or masterminds, or sometimes even for done-for-you offers, this could work out as well. But the other thing that you could do is you could create a collaborative process versus a I'll do it all for you process. So I see a lot of coaches, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with this, but if you're wanting to implement the IKEA effect and help people to feel more invested and value this at a higher level, then you want to have the collaborative process. But I see a lot of times people will go into coaching and their coach is like, do this and do this and do this. And then they implement all those different things and they don't feel connected to those things. They don't understand the reason why those things are happening. And sometimes because they don't understand the reason why those things are happening and they just did it without asking questions or understanding it, sometimes it doesn't actually end up working out for their business or helping them to actually get the results that they're wanting to see. And so creating that collaborative process of the back and forth, and maybe you even saying, hey, I have a suggestion for you, but before I share my suggestion, I would actually love to know how you would approach this. And then I'm going to share with you how I would approach it. And so again, it's just more of a collaborative versus this is what I say and you should just go out and do it. The other thing that you could do is you can brainstorm together. So you list ideas, they list ideas, and then you can have them pull their favorites from maybe your list and their list. And then again, they're part of a process in that sense, instead of it just being like, hi, here are my ideas. And so for my clients, if you come to me, for example, and you're saying, hey, I need to come up with a name for my offer, I'm going to say, okay, great. You come up with 5 names. I'm going to come up with 5 names. We're going to come back together and then we're going to figure out a name based off of that, instead of me being like, here are 5 names for you. Now, in terms of your community, so this isn't inside of a paid offer or really any offer, but if you're on Instagram, your social media account, anything like that, how can you implement the IKEA effect? You can ask people for opinions. And so I might ask you, what should I do with my office? How should I decorate my office? And you might say, you should do this and you should do this. And I might get all these different responses of how I should decorate my office, what I should do to organize my office. And when I finally do those things and you see me, maybe post that I added like a window seat to my office or something, you're like, oh my gosh, no way. That was one of my suggestions. Like, you're going to feel so much more connected to my brand and to my business because you had a say in something that I did. And that's just a random example. It doesn't always have to be your office, right? It could be anything. You could ask for opinions when it comes to your offers. You could also ask for feedback. That's another great way to implement the IKEA effect. So how could you maybe improve your offer? So that doesn't always have to be beta testing, but it could even be people who are already inside of your offer, having them fill out a form. And then once you implement that feedback, whatever the feedback they gave you, then you're going to message them and you're going to say, hey, thank you so much for suggesting that I do XYZ. I actually just implemented that inside of this offer. And I just wanted to let you know, I'm so appreciative of the feedback that you gave me. So that's a really great way to help people to feel more connected. Another thing that you can do is you can ask for advice. So you can say, hey, what should I name my offer? What branding color should I do? What should I wear for my brand photo shoot? And again, it's going to help people to feel more connected to you. And the way that Natasha, the founder of Jura, when she was talking, I think she talked about this inside of her episode on sales psychology, but she calls it the shareholder effect, where people feel like they have a share in your company because they have aided to the creation of your company in some sort of way, or the creation of your offer, where it's like if they helped you to name that offer and then you actually named that offer, whatever it is that they suggested, they're like, oh my goodness, like they feel like they're a shareholder in your offer, even though obviously they're not technically a shareholder in your offer, but she calls it the shareholder effect. And it's a very similar effect to the IKEA effect. Actually, I would say that those two things are the same thing, but just with different terminology. Then another thing that you can do as well with your community is post user generated content. And so this could be reposting people's content on stories and saying how proud you are of them. It could be, if you're a product based business, reposting people's pictures that they've taken of their products and posting that on your feed, because it's going to make them feel more connected to your brand because they created content for your brand and you posted it. Another thing is interactive challenges and contests. So you could do this to encourage followers to participate in different creative activities that are related to your brand. For instance, you could challenge your followers to share photos of themselves using your product, so that way you can then use those as user generated content on your feed. Of course, obviously getting permission to be able to utilize those. Don't steal people's work. You could also use it to, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of different like challenges that you can do, but when people feel like it's going to foster a sense of excitement and ownership among participants when they are a part of that challenge. So that is the IKEA effect. Again, to recap, what is the IKEA effect? It is a effect that suggests that people feel a sense of pride and achievement from successfully completing the assembly of a product, leading them to value the end product more highly than if they had not put any effort into its creation. So my question to you is, how can you implement this into your business this week? How are you going to make people feel like they are a part of the creation process of your offers, of your social media content, of your business, and really bring them into the journey versus having them be on the sidelines? Now, stay tuned for part 2, where I dive into what you can learn from Amazon.